Hello, good evening and welcome. I'm Karima Brown and you're watching Political Exchange, where we unpack Africa's political economy. South Africa's ruling African National Congress will hold its 53rd elective conference in Mangaung in December. There's been speculation that President Jacob Zuma will be seeking a second term in office and that his deputy Kgalema Motlanthe will challenge him for the position. The official nominations process has now opened in the party, and joining me to discuss how this works is ANC Secretary General Gwede Manatashe. Mr. Manatashe, thank you so much for your time. You have now entered a period where your branch structures are discussing leadership. Take us through how the process works.
Good evening, Karima. The nomination process is quite a complex process and an exciting process, with many people wishing to manipulate it. I must put that up front. You would have seen how provinces run ahead and make pronouncements even before the actual nomination from the branches take place. And that gives you a sense of how people will struggle to get their hands on the process. The reality of the matter is that branches have been given nomination guidelines. They have been given the Through the Eye of the Needle, which is a document that helps them scrutinize leaders individually and collectively. And those branches will go to curating branch general meetings.
When you say curating, what exactly do you mean?
It means if my membership is 100, there must be 50 plus 1 people in that branch general meeting. If I have 1,000, there must be at least 501 people in that branch general meeting. That is what we call a curating branch general meeting. Only a curating branch general meeting can nominate for the 6 officials position and the 80 National Executive Committee positions. Secondly, it is the same branch general meeting that nominates a delegate or delegates to conference. So only those nominations from the branches will actually tell you who is nominated, who is not nominated. Everything else, I always classify it as the work of bookmakers, whose impact can only be influence the thinking. But once those are collated, they will go to regional general meetings and be consolidated in provincial conferences for nominations. Those nominations will then go to the Electoral Commission.
Now, take us, SG, through these categories that you have and considerations that branches are urged to take into account when they suggest person A or person X for a position. You've referred to Eye of the Needle, where it speaks to the qualities that we seek, that the ANC seeks in leaders, where the fact that people must be in good standing. What are the things that must be taken into consideration when people nominate?
Ordinarily, any leader of the ANC, one must be in the ANC for a considerable amount of time and therefore must understand the organization. Secondly, that leader must have a standing in society and be beyond reproach. That leader must be a leader who is committed to serve. And there are quite a number of criteria that are listed in the Through the Eye of the Needle. I'm just summarizing them in broad terms, in the sense that branches must scrutinize leaders. It must not just be given that you are elected because you have been around. You have been around, and what have you been doing by being around? Have you proven your commitment? Are you doing the right thing? Are you standing for the values of the ANC, of selflessness, of sacrifice, of humility, of preparedness to serve, and all those values?
So what about skill, SG? I mean, you are also a governing party. You need people that can run organs of state, whether it's at municipalities, whether it is in the provincial governments. And we know that you've identified as a party that skills and the professionalization of the ANC is a very big challenge you face as a governing party.
Except that the debate about skill gets vulgarized and be reduced to academic qualifications. And once you remove that vulgarization and appreciate skills as being able and capable of fulfilling and executing the tasks that are given to you, then skills become a major, major contributing factor. Because one of the issues, let me give you an example as a mine worker, Karima. As a mine worker, I know that there were times where you will have a young engineering graduate want to enter an electricity box without switching it off. It is workers who will say, no, no, that thing will kill you, switch it off before you enter it. And therefore, there is what we call prior learning, understanding of issues in details. One of our best and the highly regarded cadres of our movement are not the best because of the number of degrees they have, but it is because of the skill that they possess. And therefore, that is quite important for us to have. We are not underplaying the importance of education. We are just emphasizing that don't separate the two.
Mm-hmm. Now, let's come to some of the other criteria. We know that issues around demographics is important for the ANC, issues around gender representation. There's a big push from the Women's League to get parity, the 50-50 principle through. How is it going to work? How does this principle apply when leaders are chosen for either the top 6 positions or the 80 positions for the NSC?
The 50-50 is not a push by the Women's League. It's Rule 6 of the Constitution of the ANC.
So why don't we have it in place?
Yeah, it is in place.
No, do we have 50-50 representation throughout?
You can go to our NSC, you can go to the APC, you can go to RSC, you can go to every base of the ANC. You will see that principle enforced. There is no wishy-washy approach to that. It is enforced. That's why if it is not coming naturally, we actually begin to apply the zebra model of FM to ensure that there is a 50-50 representation in the structure of the ANC. So all of them from 2007 are subjected to that reality. And many men get out of that list, even if they are elected, if they are at the bottom end, and to give way for women. It is applicable in the ANC. So it's not a push of the Women's League, it's a constitutional requirement in the African National Congress.
But in many of your provinces, particularly provinces in rural areas, that is a difficult thing to sell because patriarchy in the ANC is something that is constantly having to be challenged. It's not a given.
The reality, every provincial executive committee of the ANC has applied that principle. Everyone. 9 of them. You can go to any rural province, whether it is Limpopo, KZN or Eastern Cape, that principle is applicable. Where we had few problems was when we go to governance. For example, a principle that doesn't, is not actually a principle, is actually applying the political principle behind it. When we talk to mayors, for example, say how many mayors in province X who are female, who are male, and then try to say, please ensure that there is a 50-50 allocation of those positions. And the reality of the matter is that that is actually trying to fulfill the political argument. Because every municipality is an institution, the 50-50 should apply at that level and to the next and to the next. But we have stressed it deliberately to ensure that we are not minimalist and have what I normally call, in terms of your compliance, it's malicious compliance. We don't want to stick to malicious compliance. We want to actually deal with that. Actually, that debate has gone further and say you can have this 50-50 if you take male to be mayors only in municipalities that are big, in metros and these municipalities, and put women in difficult municipalities, you're putting them up for failure. Then that is more in the political content of the principle.
Okay, let's talk generational mix, Mr. Manatashe. There has been a very big push, not just from the Youth League, but from within the ANC itself, that you have to renew the party with fresh blood. You have to get younger people in. South Africa's electorate is young. Most of the people who bear the brunt of things like unemployment and so on are young people, and you need them within the decision-making structures of the ruling party. How big a consideration is generational mix?
Generational mix in the ANC has been there for decades now. And I think you can start looking at in the 1948 National Conference of the ANC, 8 youth leaders made it to the NEC. And since then, it has always been the case. You can even go to the current NEC, you will see it. You can go to the cabinet, you will see it. The push by the Youth League has not been generational mix. It was vulgarization of that concept and put a name and a face to the concept.
You're referring now to the sports minister, Fikile Mbalula.
And I think they actually did a disservice, not only to the concept, but to the person himself, in the sense that when you do that, you are going to disown many youth leaguers who are actually coming up through the ranks of the ANC. You see, I was boasting to somebody, saying, you know, one of our finest ministers are graduates of the Youth League. You can look at Malusi, you can look at Nat, you can look at Fikile, you can list them. But once you vulgarize the case and disown some and own some, you are going to kill the concept and delegitimize it. And I think it is unfortunate.
If I understand you correctly, are you saying that the Youth League's early campaign to get Fikile Mbalula into the top 6 of the ANC Youth League actually disadvantaged him?
No, I'm not saying so. All I'm saying is that, you see, in an organization like the ANC, once you vulgarize a concept and you put a face, you are actually doing a disservice to the concept and you are doing a disservice to the person. Because generational mix means actually integration of various generations and systematic handover from one generation to another, which is seamless. Once you vulgarize it, you make it like a monarchy, that old people are just stand in for younger generation. You are vulgarizing the concept, you will kill it.
Mm-hmm. Just before we take a break, SG, which we have to take shortly, the question of this contestation in the party, many people are saying that the way in which the ANC is dealing with it actually doesn't encourage open democracy in the party, because you try to gag it. And of course you always respond by saying, we have a methodical way of dealing with it. We don't want to do this ahead of the time. We don't want to get sidetracked. In retrospect, given the challenges that the ANC face, would it perhaps not have been better to open the nominations earlier and to get this discussion out in the open?
You know, Karima, if truth be told, the only party in South Africa that is open about this process is the ANC. That's it. Everybody knows when will be election, what stage of the process kick in. It's the ANC. We do that because we understand that what we do as the party is not only limited and impacting on us as a party, it impacts on society. That's why we have opened it up. What we have avoided this now, there's nothing suppressed. What has been avoided is to have a free-for-all. That can be very destructive in the party in the long term. Now nominations are open. People are pronouncing, others were saying, ST, why do you keep quiet when provinces are pronounced? I said, all of them are pronouncing. I've listened to 5 of them now. I've listened to the Youth League, Women's League, all over. Because nominations now are open. It is the only time when people talk about name. We have 2 months to actually engage in that process intensively, talk about names, nominate, and go ahead. Just imagine if we opened that a year ago. There would be nothing serious happening in the party except talking about names and fighting over them. It is managed politically. It is doing well. We had time to focus on policy. We went to the policy conference, recommendations of the policy conference, go to the national conference. We are now opening nominations. Therefore, processes of the ANC are taking into account the interest of the party than interest of individuals.
SG, we have to leave it there. We're taking a short break, but when we come back, we continue our discussion with the ANC Secretary General, Gwede Manatashe.